And
We just close it, so.
I haven't spoken to anybody.
It'll still be live, because if you go back to the Zoom. thing.
Huh?
Nope, just open it up, just click here. Oh, it still says recording. Oh, it says YouTube, so you're good.
Okay.
Good,
Yep.
good. Meeting of the IPA, July 23rd, motion to approve the June 25th minutes.
Motion.
Thank you, Megan. Second, Going in favor.
On the screen slash your report, you'll see the bank balances. They're very similar to end of June. And you will notice that there is now quarter two, 2024 in your chart. So it's comparative of all of last year, and then the first two quarters, and then your current. Next page is budget versus actuals. Right now, we're looking at about $4,000 net income overall. The revenue did increase slightly over the past month. And the expenses stayed about the same. So that's the and the big revenue item for this month was your interest income, and that's from the money market. Much interest overall or overall? Right now, we're at about 15,000. And then the CD is gonna be coming, both CDs are maturing September 30th. And it's probably gonna be around 13,000.
Funny.
This, so you got no. Do you have any people in the pipe for pilot agreements?
This will close. We're working through that now.
Or wasn't that sales tax?
I think we signed the dot, yeah, we did that.
Wanna bill everything at the end.
We'll bill everything, yeah. That's how. I had a call yesterday about a potential adaptive reuse project, which is exciting. Katie, we have a policy for that, which is awesome. I'll say, that is, so for everybody to hear, IDAs do IDA stuff. It's in the name, Industrial Development Agency, but adaptive reuse in our policy amendments that we did. A year ago.
A year ago, yeah.
Allow for, so if you take an old, the way I describe it is take an old warehouse and turn it into. This element or the pilot. There's a lot of talk about housing. IDAs in general, it's not hard. Other IDAs are evaluating their opportunities to support housing. Decision for that. I'll talk about it. Other than this, nothing specific. Lots of conversations out there.
Okay. Moving on.
Speaking of which, so I'll tell so we have three pending applications that we're preparing, one of which is supported through the IDA. For smart growth, so this is say smart growth is a way to kind of consult.
Oh, that's through the county, right? But Fast New York is through them. Oh, you're talking about funding, not
Yes.
who's the applicant?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah, sorry.
That's okay. Growing smart. So we're building capacity in our planning side of our office on with municipalities on updates, the comp plans. zoning code. I'll say, this is all kind of figuring out what we guys. I don't recall in my almost 8 years here seeing as many municipalities with comprehensive plans as I see. Which to me is encouraging. There are dated comprehensive plans, some written in the 60s, some earlier, and seeing folks visit and revisit those and updates to zoning code are a huge part of how we work on the economic development side. So having industrial zone land instead of commercial zone land, developers are increasingly looking for fast permitting. And having the appropriately zoning and zoning designations for properties helps us market and sell properties. Same time, it helps us develop strategies. Where those properties are is a big part of it. Flip to the planning side of the office. Growing smart. If infrastructure expansion, so when I say that, for the most part, I mean water and sewer lines. Not zoning industrial land, 15, 20 miles from where the closest connection point is smart growth. It costs less, it protects farmland, but at the same time, it would accommodate industrial sites for us to market and attract new businesses. So we've done a housing study, darling property, all these other planning and independent planning projects that we've done, pulling them together into a strategy for the county and for its municipalities is part of the project. Prepare to submit to 8 days from now. So, you mentioned Fast New York. So Fast New York is the state's shovel-ready investment program. So that part of state development. I mentioned one of these pieces, sparkle stuff, but water and sewer capacity is an increasingly larger part of our ability to serve those sites that I was just talking about. So we had a meeting with, so Fast New York funds two things: hard infrastructure investments and studies, if you will. On the study side of things, it's get inquiries about sites or whether businesses you are inquiring about a particular site. One of those questions is always water, wastewater capacity. Frankly, it's a little bit like grasping at straws here. It's a moving target. We never really get a really definitive answer from the many operators of the systems. So Lake County Water and Sewer Authority owns some systems, operates others on behalf of municipalities. Getting a real handle on capacity and demand. It's always been a challenge. So we've vetted this with the state, and they've kind of given us, so there was a pre-application process for this Fast New York program. Went through that, had a little bit of a back and forth, and they've kind of given us the green light to submit the full application to do a countywide water wastewater study so that we can really get that infrastructure capacity. And again, it all plays into our ability to, well, not only identify what areas are prime for investment, but what we need to do to get other areas. So building up the business park analysis and continue through that as a much effort. No deadline on that application. But hopefully get that done soon.
Are there like Main Street America grants out there, like urban renewal type things?
New York Main Street is a program.
Cause I go through these small towns and, they need, help.
Right.
There's a lot, it's not as easy as that,
Oh, I know, cause it's.
because the
private.
income levels and
Yeah.
the restrictions they put on, we've looked at it, individually, we don't, and then we just had, the county just had an issue, with the ambulance space in the roads, they only qualify for 55% funding because of the income level in roads. And they're over the limit. So it's crazy. But that's the way it is.
You've done the block running.
So now that kills the project because you can
Doesn't
only
kill
get
the
it.
project, but it reduces the amount they qualify.
Sure.
Yeah.
So they gotta come up with 45%.
Correct. And then, you know, local municipality, I'll tell you, like Williamson, we did, I think it was a block grant 2 years ago. 90, I think it was 90-10. Grant was for 90%, but the businesses had to come up with 10%. Facades, all that sort of stuff, building.
Before I came in here, well, this morning I was writing a support letter for the town of Ontario's application to New York Main Street.
The bid, the business
Yeah, the
improvement
business
district.
improvement district.
Yeah.
Main Street, has different qualifications than CDBG funded program areas. New York Main Street's been around since a long time. A really popular program, very effective, I think. Kicker is getting the property owners on board way ahead of time, and letting them know, okay, if you're on board, give me another year while I submit an application, get it reviewed, approved, funded, all those other things. For letter I'm writing now for the town of Ontario, which is, this is different from your perspective or not, but the state seems focused on finally getting assurances that there's, all of the Main Street funding is reimbursement. Rehab your building, do your project, and we'll show proof of costs. Property owners have historically have had difficulty coming up with the cash if fund projects, so they've typically be interested in willing to support bridge financing for those projects. It's a smart move, happy to do it. So that's part of the support that I'm
Yeah, that is a relatively new thing with the CDBG funding. They are asking all of the applicants of how will you upfront the funding, whether it be through line of credit, some sort of loan program or something like that, that may be available. That is relatively new. The application.
It's just interesting to me to just imagine how things, like you're saying, you gotta show money to be able to get the money. But yet, if you're building something new and you want a special use variance to do what you wanna do, you gotta show that you're broke. That you're financially in a bad position in order to get this change. So it's just interesting to me how these things conflict with each other and make it so much harder for a business person to say, you know, I'm willing to spend $1 million to improve my property and to expand my business. Can I do it? I don't think so. I don't think it really fits with the culture or neighborhood, you know? And you're just, you
I'll
know,
say, to your point, you know, that's why comprehensive planning is so important, going through that process. It gets everyone on the same page and allows for amendments, you know, right? So if we've been talking, what do you, you know, we call it the Yankee house, at least I do, right? The property, it's in a single family residential district. Right? Investor, someone who buys larger multifamily looking, if you will, houses, purchased it, was maybe unaware or didn't do the diligence to say, oh, it's in a single family residential district, then I'd probably maybe assume that you can get a use variance to make it multifamily. It's one of those big old houses, right? But couldn't demonstrate the hardship criteria to your point of use variance. But town really, you know, is that property ever gonna be a single family home, or is it more appropriate to be a multifamily home? And then the zoning code, the only real way to do that without spot zoning, get you in trouble, is to work through the comprehensive planning process, right? So if you get all the public meetings, you get everybody in the room, you give them an opportunity to say, speak their piece and make good decisions. Very defendable, keeps you revisiting that regularly, it helps you adjust to the market conditions. The projects where it makes sense.
Yeah.
But there's a process to it. That's kind of walk off that.
it's a little maddening, you know, because nobody
Keeps
should
us
get
all
into a project
afloat.
with no money.
So we all spend our days working. Yeah,
Nobody should get into a project with no money. And when there's a demand for housing
I'll
and
say
that's
there's
a
a demand for
priority,
housing, it's a huge priority, and then you have.
and then there should be some body of government that's over all of it that should say, you should do this, grant them variance. Multifamily, maintain
You
apartments.
know, home rule, and so what's going on with solar, right? The state's taking over all the zoning for solar,
Mm.
just because of that reason.
Yeah, Yeah, because they wanna knock all these opinions out of the box, right?
Talk for hours.
Yes, it does.
And solar.
How does it change, you know, because I just see, you know, I'm 57 years old and I just see how government has destroyed real estate. And we're in the Rochester area, I'm not talking about county at all. But even Main Street, Rochester, how the Renaissance project was gonna be the big, you know, the big thing, and all those buildings on Clinton and Main Street, they rotted away with those people waiting for the county to buy their buildings and wreck them and build a theater. But it never happened. It was a 10-year period of time. It's just totally destroyed the way Main Street looks in Rochester. And now they're renovating them. Oh my God, somebody told me it's like little shafts underneath those buildings, and there's trap doors to get into the basements. And people have been living in these basements for years and years. They're like.
Perfect.
It's, you know what I'm talking about. They're so gross. So here they're spending all this money above ground to renovate these places. And below ground, they got these basements, you know, I mean, it's just so, it's like throwing good money. The whole picture has been so skewed by, I think, government politics, you know, what the funding is and how we're gonna put theater and transportation together, because that's what we can get the money for. It's ridiculous to me. I mean, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I mean, so Syracuse did something similar, right? I mean, a lot of their bus activity in the city is right within the shopping district, and there's so many, for lack of a better way to put it.
People hanging out.
Lowbrow people just hanging out on the corner, so we're gonna go downtown.
Yeah.
So, or at least that's been my experience with,
I lived in downtown Syracuse for almost 10 years and I liked it. I never felt unsafe.
there's
There are
definitely,
little situations everywhere, but what I would say is I'm proud of the work that we're doing. So what do you do? Right? I think code enforcement, I think the land bank's a huge tool and a resource, then agencies like the IDA or the Economic Development Corporation. Being flexible to a point, reacting to needs and demand in the market.
Yeah.
You kind of do the best you can.
Well, I gotta think that's why the Board of Supervisors put this IDA together, is to
60 to
work outside of the box and make things
It
happen.
was a competitive play by New York State when they enacted the law, and it was because the state was losing projects, from what I understand. To Florida, they were offering incentives for industrial companies to locate here. They said, well, how do we do this? We wrote the Parkway ETA, Howard IDA, benefits. Somewhat autonomous from municipalities, maybe for the right reasons or wrong reasons.
Yeah.
That's how you look at it.
I believe Green County's the first IDA, right?
It's and it's
In this
being
region, well, in New York.
one of the first. Yeah, Wayne County was very proactive and state adopted laws about the creation of IDAs. County thought right after that.
Do you ever have to get involved with, say, the project started and now we've realized there's a zone issue? Does anyone ever come to say, hey, can the idea?
Started,
Well,
Right, like someone comes and they kind of start something, they think it's not to be a,
typically with.
like, do they reach out with issues?
Like your
I guess,
Yankee
like
house, I mean, are you in any position of authority to
Right.
help the guy?
I don't know, come and
I'm
say,
sorry.
The Yankee
no,
house.
not that,
Oh, yeah,
that would not really.
Yeah.
Without taking the dive, the county has a planning board. Use variances. Some area variances, some subdivisions, all site plans. Under the county for a review before being approved locally. If the county says no, the local municipality can still say yes. It's a home rule, to Tony's point.
Oh, okay. I
It
didn't
takes a
understand.
super majority to supersede the county, right? So majority.
Formality.
I mean, it takes a super majority at the local level to go against what the county's planning.
And that's your purvey, right? You and Katie spent 50%.
yeah, I guess that's what I was wondering, is that ever something you guys end up getting involved
yeah,
in?
and as for pilots, we don't. You know, when we talk with the applicant first, we ask them their engagement with the local town or village on what type of zoning variances or other things they need to do first, and we have them do that first before they
The voice.
submit the application or have.
You know, the process, the code enforcement officer, so you bring in an application, and you wanna put a new, you know, building someplace. The first thing you should do is go and check and see if it's zoned or, and let you know, hey, you gotta go to the zoning board to get a variance. We had that happen a couple of times last year. And they got their variances, but that's what the code enforcement, it should never get to.
Should never get to the point where.
Should.
Well, that's some of the details, again, I think we're gonna, as a county, I think, look, I'll say, one, we put so much into code enforcement is not just reviewing applications to see if they're conforming to zoning codes. All sorts of other things, to your point about downtown Rochester code enforcement.
Oh, yeah.
Cited for code violations, there's a
Yeah.
property maintenance code as part of the New York State Building Code. You have to maintain your properties to a certain level, but it's difficult by the time, from what I gather, discussions. Knowing what we ask for officers.
Like if somebody doesn't mow the grass.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. Code enforcement officer gets involved. Process takes typically a month. You gotta go through process.
Going quick. I've been through.
No, that's true.
3.5 years.
You gotta give people due process, you gotta notify them, you gotta so on, and it's registered letters, just to mow the lawn.
I was like, you know,
Neighborhood is called lawn by that point.
getting back to, if you will, like, what can we do or what are we doing, you know, I think you know, I've been a strong advocate since I got here, and I think we're doing a really good job as a county. So GIS or online zoning detail property information is something that they're not, by the way, I would encourage you to take a look at it, it's on the county website, we have GIS. We're gonna be building on that significantly. Part of it is the resimplified platform that we have on our website now. Maybe incorporate that into the bigger GIS, so that if you're marketing a property is available, click on the parcel, see all the information, history, and assessed values. There's all sorts of detail buried in the property parcel data, property classifications, assessment history, all sorts of things in there that we can make available to the public so that go online, click on the parcel, do a search and find the address, click on the parcel, and then you can know a lot of detail about that piece of property, so. Doing GIS,
Yeah, I think those are kind of interesting. Cause I did that when I went to that bid meeting in Ontario. And my son has that app on his phone, and I said, let's look at who owns the property in Ontario. And one guy owns like 5 parcels that if this guy, you know, they're all kind of, you know, he's owned it for a long time, he's whatever, but if any of those parcels loosened up, well, now there would be a renaissance of development in that town. But I think you see that a lot in small towns. You definitely see it in Morristown, you know? You know, where,
Happy get that one bar, right?
yeah, yeah. But, you know, that's what's kind of useful about those tools, is you can actually look at it and be just like, well, nothing's gonna happen as long as this guy owns all the parcels around me, you know?
it's a good conversation, it helps give perspective to the work that we're doing here and how it plays into county planning board, our GIS work.
Yeah,
All the
people
other
that need
things
to be
that are
brought into the
going on.
conversation and when it comes to development.
It's a county. I think we're doing. Not just perspective. A lot of things going on, emergency management, these terms, all that stuff is important to the goal here, which is business attraction, creating jobs, built up.
So
Let you guys
start-
hear.
Did sort of start that ambulance, construction of that ambulance place?
Just as
Isn't
a-
that right on 104 and Route 88?
Right across the Reeds, down in the. Yeah, it is.
Oh, okay, because I.
Well,
It's kind
you
of.
get,
yeah,
it's in the middle of the woods
right?
right now.
Mhm.
There's a road
And
going down.
And because of DEC,
Oh.
yeah.
Another 8 days, our responses to the RFP for the public correction facility are due. So that'll involve the IDA as well, it's a transaction with the state. no, nothing to report other than in 8 days. We'll have responses to that. So we'll have a committee of folks, including the two supervisors, Katie and myself. Be reviewing those proposals. And bring a recommendation to a broader committee on our developer. And start working with details, all of which details contingent on the responses.
Yeah, because you'll extend the deadline if you don't get the responses you.
I think I'm fairly confident we'll get at least one. Whether or not the quality of the response to the RFP. Evaluating, we could get one, we could get 5, we could get 20.
We haven't yet.
No.
Yes.
But not surprising, by the way, I
No,
would expect them
maybe
to take
well, to break
it's
the
right up
deadline.
to about the last time to tweak or amend responses.
It's such a funny time of year, some, like a couple weeks ago. Our phone was like it's turned. It was, you know. And then, you know, that's when I start freaking out, because, you know, insurance renews, I gotta pay a lot of money, you know, and, we don't even have any work. And then all of a sudden, after, you know, maybe a couple of weeks, things start up again. It's always so simple, timing is so simple. And I was just thinking, a project like this, having a deadline in August, it might, I don't know. If you're gonna get, I hope you get what you would, for sure. But if you extend it out into October, you might get a little, or November, you might get a little more, because people are back. Like, I don't know.
We'll see, I mean, we had a fairly generous
Year
window,
end, doing stuff, you know, maybe.
we'll see, yeah, I think we had a fairly generous window as far as when we released the RFP, when the due date for responses is. We'll work through the details when we get there, which is a little over a week away.
Yeah, you're gonna close it, 4 more jails.
So-
There's closing 4 more jails.
I saw 2, is it
In North
2, is it 4 more? No, I saw at least, I
Yes,
know at
yes.
least 2.
Head around. Some of them that they're closing are next to other jails.
The funny thing is I want to say the Auburn paper said they're gonna close 2 more prisons, and then they said which ones they weren't gonna close, and they never said which ones they were, you know, like on the headlines.
Yeah, they talked about consolidating a minimum security into a medium security. So that was, they were considering it a closure, but it really was just a shift.
It's a
Of
first
labor.
step, that's what happened with both Butler and what the place down in Wooded there. Willard.
Mhm.
But yeah, we're just shut half of it.
What's unbelievable to me is they have 50% of the inmates that they had. The inmate population, they're saying, this article I read said that the reason why they have 50% of the inmate population that they had is because of the
Yeah, we're going.
revised marijuana laws. So hard for me to believe.
Do we have a date for that next meeting yet? The Butler tonight?
Yeah.
Okay. Should I have it?
No, we didn't, no. But we should schedule one, so I'll
Any other updates? Questions? Comments? Everyone's enjoying this summer. I appreciate you guys taking the time. July. I know it's difficult. I have nothing else.
Okay, next meeting is August 27th, motion to adjourn.
Oh, thank you. Part of one meeting, return. Final, let everybody know that, Robin has accepted the trade. Yes, we go.
Yes, we go.
So you live in Red Creek, right?
Markville.
Oh, be closer.
Oh,
The Markville speed trap.
What's that?
The Markville speed trap.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yep, between the 2 hills.
Yep.
Hate that sound, so, it makes me so mad just thinking about it.
Yeah,
I went to college there.
Me too.
Yeah,
me 3.
great memory.
Wow.
Can you have a love letter?
That's right.
I assume the bar with the traffic is a space that looks like you can go fast, but they're going out there.
It's the version of the elevator.
The speed limit drops.
Street is so
It's hill.
It only drops like this
Stand.
little, hilly.
Yeah, it's.
Right.
I like the double way.
Well, I'll say I appreciate Robin's work here. Sorry to see her leave, but I
Yeah.
completely understand.
I thought you did a great job on minutes.
Thank you.
I working through the process. After that. Pretty short period of time. Appreciate
Nice meeting you all.
Yeah.
it. Thanks again, everybody. Hope you enjoying the summer.
If you, so.
Yeah, so I apologize.
Yeah.
Yeah, back from, not just